Welcome to another episode of Courageous Me. Today we have got the incredibly glamorous Lucy Owens with us. Now, Lucy Owens is a personal stylist, which I have a very soft spot for because my mother was a personal stylist, and she's also the founder of Style Rises. Now, I met Lucy recently, ironically, at a shoe event. And she walked in, and when she walked in, oh my goodness, not only did she look amazing, there was a presence about her. And I remember thinking, I need to meet that woman. I don't know who she is, but there was something about her that I needed to meet. So I did, and we had oodles of conversation, and I've got her here today so we can carry on that conversation and you can enjoy some of what I got when I first met her and the experience I had with her. So, Lucy, before I get you to share a bit about you, could you just share with everyone what excites you to have this conversation with me today about courage?
Yeah, thank you just briefly, Kim, for that lovely introduction. I feel very flattered with that. That's really lovely of you, and I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And I'm excited to have this because I feel that courage has been a theme throughout my life, and perhaps at the times when I have made courageous decisions, I haven't necessarily thought that, wow, this is a really big, courageous decision. But then sometimes we go through life and we reflect back on moments that have really shaped us or that have really had a really big impact. And I've come to realize that some of the biggest things that have happened in my life have been because I was okay with, I think, just putting myself into a really, out of the box kind of situation or something that took me into just, a whole different playing field. And I guess, I guess that's courage, and I think it's a really important part of who we are and of reaching our full potential.
And that's such an interesting thing you say, because I get this all the time, Lucy, that people do things and they don't actually think that that's necessarily courage because
Yes.
they just did it. But yet what I've noticed is to someone else, it's like, oh, fruit, how did you get the courage to do that? So really, really interesting. So given you've just opened Pandora's box that you have put yourself in situations where to everybody else, it would be called courage. Let's just get straight in. Can you share what probably one of the biggest or one of the many of the biggest ones have been in your life to date?
Yeah, and this was, I suppose, what we were talking about, Kim, when we met. But I guess something that really changed the direct trajectory of my life was I made a decision back in, I think it was 2012, that to set some context, I was really miserable and unhappy in my life. I really just wasn't at a good point in my life. I had followed the script that society gives us of what should make you happy. And I think that's, you're nodding your head, and I think that's very common for women. So I had left a career in fashion, which I'd started in and I loved, and I'd moved into more corporate roles to move up the hierarchy, to earn more money and all of those things. And I just remember I'd moved up to having my own office, and I can remember sitting in my office feeling lonely, miserable, and asking myself, is this all there is to life? I just was not happy with where I was, and I didn't believe that that was all there could be. And I also didn't believe that that was all I was made to do. And I didn't see this, I didn't feel that I wanted to move any further into that, up into the echelons of corporate. I really felt lost in terms of passion and purpose. And it was a really just a profound moment for me looking out the window. I just knew I had to make a change. And so I took myself off to a retreat in Bali that was very, very remote. It was otherworldly, maybe is the way that I would describe it. And one of the things that I noticed when I was there was how happy the people were with very little. but here, a lot of the expectations and so forth that sometimes, I certainly felt in that time was, well, you'll be happy and you'll be successful when you've got, a mortgage and a house and a car and, this kind of, role or whatever it was. And, I just realized that all of those things hadn't made me happy. I wasn't happy at all. And so I actually, on my last night in the retreat, I just had, I don't know, I suppose you would call it an epiphany. I was just like, I knew exactly what I wanted to do and what would be my steps from there. And, I guess giving myself the time and the space to be able to come to that conclusion. And I wrote down on a piece of paper, and I still have the piece of paper. I wrote down, I'm going to quit my job. When I get back, I will quit my job. I didn't have another job, but I just said, I'm not continuing in that job because it is really affecting me physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. It's not where I want to be. So I wrote that down. And then I said, I will move overseas. I will move to a different country because I want to shake up my life. And I just wanted to live again. And I had lived in London in my 20s. And I had always, I don't know, I guess coming back to Australia had always been challenging for me. I always, loved living overseas. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I did, Kim. I came back.
And how old were you, Lucy?
I think at that point I was 32, about 32. And yeah, I sort of headed off when I was about 33. So.
Wow. And did you have a partner? Were you in a relationship so single, no kids?
Single, no kids. So I was, in that sense, I had a bit of flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. But you knew you were going to quit your job, but you didn't know what you were going to do, but you just knew it wasn't that.
I had no idea at that point.
I love it.
Like no idea, but that's when I just had that message that came through that was like, you need to leave your job and moving overseas is the next best step for you.
Yay. Now, overseas is big and broad. There's a lot of countries, a lot of places to go. Was there any direction as to where you would actually, where are you buying your airline ticket to?
That's a really good question. So in my apartment at the time, on sort of my main lounge room wall, I had a really big, beautiful canvas map of the world. And I looked at that map sitting on my couch one night and I thought, right, I'm 32 or 33. I've already been to London. I traveled all through Asia. I traveled a lot through Europe. And kind of all of a sudden staring back at me was South America. It was exotic. It was, totally different to where I'd ever been. And I, said to a girlfriend of mine, you know what, I'm thinking of going somewhere like Chile or, somewhere like that. And she goes, oh my God, you just need to go to Buenos Aires. It's so elegant. It's glamorous. You are going to love it there. And I said, well, that's where I'm going to go.
So that was scientific as it was.
No, scientific as it was. I said, it sounds really good. And then I spoke to another girlfriend of mine. She goes, I've got a girlfriend who was there. She was teaching English, and she goes, get in contact with her. So I did. And that's when everything starts falling into place, doesn't it? When we make bold decisions, and even when we don't know how it's going to pan out, you just trust it, and the things will fall into place. And I had a conversation with this, my friend's friend, and everything she told me was, kind of just, cemented my decision that this was the place I was going to go to.
That is such a beautiful thing, because I get so many people say to me, how do you know when the time is right? How do you know that, say, quitting your job without something else to go to? How can you reconcile in your mind? It's like sometimes you can't, but you have a knowing deep inside you.
Yes.
And that knowing is directing you, and it's trusting it and listening to it. Now, yours obviously ended up guiding you to Buenos Aires, which is, but it is a bold move, and this is courage in its essence, right? This is doing something without knowing what the outcome is, but having faith that whatever it is, it's right. So tell me what happened. So you buy the ticket, you get there. I'm assuming they don't even speak English, or do they?
No, I speak Spanish.
So you speak Spanish at the time?
because I wanted to learn another language anyway. So I enrolled in an 8-week course before I left, and I was grossly underprepared. Living in a Spanish-speaking country, grossly underprepared. But that as well, living in a country in a different language, the first time I'd ever done that, that really was that was tough. That was really tough at times. Um, at the beginning I was teaching English, so you kind of have a buffer, I guess, and you are at least being able to communicate in your native language while you're learning. But that was also, I guess, something else that really pushed me out of my comfort zone and, just helped me learn more about me in a really different way.
And so what did you do for work? Because I'm assuming that
Yeah.
this is not all just being funded by the universe.
It's nice, so wasn't it? But no, I taught English when I first got there. I took a TEFL course and taught English, and I met the first day when I went, this is another sign from the universe. So the first day when I went to take my TEFL course, about a month where you learn to teach English, and there was only 3 other people there, and I just remember there was this one girl, and we just hit it off. Like, she felt like a sister to me. She was from the States, she's still a very good friend of mine. And, she had said, oh, I was really looking at coming and doing the course the month before, the one in May. And the previous course, they'd had about, like 18 or 20 people go through that course. It was just massive. It was a really different feel. And then there was just kind of this little group of 4 of us in this course. We all became really good friends. And she ended up becoming like my best friend during that time. We traveled together all over South America. And I think, wow, she could have decided to leave a few weeks earlier, but it didn't. Like, the universe just put everything in place for me in the most beautiful way. And then it was actually my birthday. It was my 34th birthday, the first week I was there. And on that night, I went out, and I just happened to meet a very strapping Argentine gentleman. And he kind of swept me off my feet for the next year or so.
Could you could you communicate with him?
Well, yeah, because he was very, very fluent in English.
Oh,
So
perfect.
did nothing for my Spanish.
Not that you need language or words to communicate. However, it just can help a little
You
bit.
don't. Sometimes, you read, I don't know, those romance novels, and off she goes, and, she meets this man, and he sweeps her off her feet and doesn't end up being the right man, let me just say. Truly was the experience I had. And I can remember sitting on a bus, and Buenos Aires is just a crazy city. Like, there's horns everywhere, there's people everywhere, there's cars everywhere. Like, it is not a relaxing city. But I can remember sitting on the bus, and I had this a kind of wave of just peace and gratitude come over me, where I just said, oh my gosh, I am so incredibly grateful for what I am now currently experiencing in my life, and that I made the decision to do this. And I felt so far away from when I had been in that office in, Melbourne. And literally everything in my life had changed. Of course, there was still very challenging and difficult times through all of that. And I had given up financial security. I had made sacrifices to make that happen. But that's a moment that is always like etched into my mind about how it feels when I think we listen to the callings of our soul. There is just, we just know. And I think, the point that you made about, well, how do you know it's time? You will get messages along the way, because it's a feeling, it's a sense that we have that we're on the right path.
And it's interesting you say that, though, because people get this sense, they hear it, and then they run in the other direction or ignore it. But when you listen to it, and I know I've made many decisions over my life by listening to it that go against the grain of everything that was practical or logical at the time. Yes. And it's all turned out for a reason, although I didn't know what that reason was at the time. So I'm very interested in this strapping Argentinian. What happened there?
Look, honestly, it was a whirlwind. So he owned a luxury travel agency. And so literally just took me to all the top restaurants in destination in the city. Tough life, I know. Organised all these amazing trips for me and my girlfriend. And, I look back on that and I just think, gosh, he was incredible. However, we just weren't right together. We kind of did, I don't know, Kim, 2 years, I think we stretched it out to, and it just wasn't right.
And when it's not right, though, don't you?
We just, we gave it a good go. He's kind of the Argentine one. Um,
I want to like to explore a new city with a gorgeous fella that's got access to all these beautiful, restaurants and fine dining and what have you.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so where's your journey go from there? So you're in Buenos Aires, a couple of years into it. What happens?
Yeah. So I guess, look, besides my English teaching, I did have a lot of time to explore. I started taking, different courses. Online, I was exploring more about what I wanted to do and so forth. It actually did take me a while to take action though. When I first got to Buenos Aires, funnily enough, when I was one of the first conversations I had with Matthias, the Argentine, was he said to me, what are you doing here? Why did you leave Australia? And I said, well, I just really wasn't happy in my job and my career and what I was doing. And he goes, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, do you know what? I used to work in fashion and I kind of have a knack for putting things together and I really like, getting dressed up and all that sort of stuff. And I said, so I'd really like to help other women do that. And it was just a thought. It was just something I said at that moment. I didn't take any action on that at all. It sat there and I guess ruminated for 2 years. And at that point, I sort of thought, okay, what am I going to do? I was doing lots of different freelance jobs and the teaching had got to a point where it was exhausting. And one of my girlfriends actually said to me, go and do the styling course. Like go and do, an image consulting course or so, styling course. And I kind of didn't really even know that much about what that would look like at that time. I started doing lots of, research online. And the only course I could find in Buenos Aires was in Spanish.
Of course, it's Spanish. That easy, right?
Is into it, you would think I would have an okay level of Spanish. Look, my second year I did get serious. I went to the university there. I got serious. I took courses. And so, look, by that point, I was kind of taking my upper intermediate exam. So I did have an okay level. But to think about going and studying in a room full of people speaking in the language, I just thought, nah, I just don't think I can do it. I just thought, nah, I'm too scared to do that.
But yet you could go on a whim from Australia to a country you've never been to, not even being able to speak the language. It's isn't it?
The one we see things, I'm like, I'll go. But then for something like this, it's like, no, that just feels really tricky. And one of my girlfriends at the time, she goes, well, just look at it like free Spanish lessons as well. And I was, and I just thought, I have to do this. Like, I just have to do this. And so I did. I enrolled in a course over there. It was 3 months. And I just knew that was what I wanted to do.
How did you know? How did you know?
Because it was easy. It flowed. And I was so enjoying the process of it all. So, I can just remember doing colors and just learning all about like style, personality. I was just like, God, I love this. It was just so interesting and amazing to me. And, I just thought I really, really feel like I found something that I'm truly passionate about. And I was really excited to be able to help other women with the knowledge that I was learning, because I was kind of applying everything I'd learnt to myself too. I mean, I had, people might say, oh, you dress well, you've got good style and all of that. And, I did, I guess, I could put an outfit together, and I did, generally feel confident in what I was wearing. But understanding color to the depth that I was studying it, that gave me like a whole, new bunch of tools and I just tried them all out on myself. Of course, I analyzed my colors. That was part of our training. Really getting understanding my personality and styles and the body shape. It was fascinating. It was a fascinating world to me.
And I
loved
loved
it.
what you said though, when I said, but how did you know? You said it was easy and it flowed. There was no, like, is this my thing? Is this my purpose? Is this what I'm meant to be doing? You didn't have to analyze it to that level.
No.
You just knew. And when just off the top, was there something to do with fashion or style or dressing up and that from when you were a little girl? Like, does any of that resonate?
Yes, absolutely. And my mum was always very well dressed, and she loved dressing herself, and she loved dressing me in lots of complete outfits too. And I would play in her wardrobe, and I would say, I'm the retail assistant and you're the customer. That was my version of my favorite game. And I would advise her on what to wear or whatever it was. I just loved it. So yes, I've always had this, and I just love, I think, for dressing. And it was the same with dolls. I had my grandmother made the most beautiful outfits for my doll. Like there was a green velvet dress. There were like absolutely beautiful outfits, and I just admired the beauty of that.
It's so interesting because often when someone does find what their thing is, like what you have, if you trace it back, there are breadcrumbs over life, typically from when we were young, that go, oh, yeah. Like, for instance, I didn't like dolls. I liked teddy bears, and I liked teaching teddy bears. So it's no surprise I'm doing what I'm doing. Whereas, you know what I mean? Like, I've got no connection whatsoever to dolls and appreciating their clothes. So if I had have ended up doing what you're doing, yeah, maybe, well, I wouldn't have, but there's not as much relevance. So I'm not surprised that this has come out. So then you're over in Buenos Aires, you found your thing.
Yes.
Where to from here? What's kind of the next steps that the journey you went on?
Yeah, so I guess the next part of the journey was tough. So by that point, I had met my soulmate. That was the other thing that happened over there.
You have to tell us how you met him, because you can't use soulmate and, strapping for the previous one without giving us the juice.
One of my girlfriends was leaving. She was going back to Holland, and I had gone to her leaving do, and it was just at a bar, and I said to my girlfriend, oh, I'm just going to see if I can go and perch on the end of that bank of seats where there's those guys over there. My feet are absolutely killing me. And he was the person that I just happened to say, do you mind if I just rest my feet for 5 minutes? And we sat down, and he sort of said, you're not from here. And I said, no, I'm from Australia. And he said, I'm from Spain. And he was also living in Argentina. And at one point, we both moved there in the same year. And at one point, we lived 50 meters from each other, but we'd never met each other up until that point, which by now it's like 2.5 years, 3 years. And we had a very brief conversation. It was just, there was nothing, it was just a very brief conversation that night. I got up, went back to the party, and on his way out, he said, hey, if you ever feel like catching up and practicing your Spanish and I can practice my English, here's my phone number.
Oh, that's a pickup line.
It's very common over there, let me tell you. And look, the strapping Argentine had left a bit of I suppose, no desire to jump into another relationship. It had been, at the end, just emotionally very taxing. And so I didn't actually contact him. I didn't do anything about it. And then I was at a bar one night and I said to my girlfriend, for whatever reason, I can't stop thinking about that Spanish man. And she's like, oh my God, just send him a text message. And I was like, well, it's Saturday night, 2 a.m. in the morning. She goes, give me the phone. And so she sent the first text message. And then that was it. You know, we caught up for our first date and he couldn't speak English. My Spanish by that point was okay. And it was 8 hours that first date.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And you're still together today.
He moved to Australia for me. Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, gosh, I love a good love story. This is beautiful. So back onto the styling. So you've obviously moved back to Australia at some point because
Yep.
you're here in Australia now. How did that pan out? And what role did the styling play? Like, what did you do with this newfound calling of yours that you've discovered? What did you do about it?
Do you know what? It was tough because I think when you go into and you train, for example, in something like styling, they don't necessarily train you in, or I wasn't trained in, you know, how do you set that up and start a business? That was a very new world to me. Even though I guess I had always been interested in entrepreneurship and business, and I had tried little businesses in the past, this felt just much bigger and harder, and I actually didn't know where to start. And so I spent about 12 months taking more courses, writing business plans, you know, going to networking events, but actually not taking a real solid action towards starting my business. And it was, you know, one of my mentors who I had done some training with, she's like, Lucy, just get on with it. You have just got to, you know, stop thinking about it and actually, you know, take some sort of action. And it was actually my partner who said, just do an event. He goes, let's just do a colour event for friends and family, and that's kind of going to kick it off for you. And so that's what I did. I hired a beautiful, you know, room, just in, you know, a cafe, and invited friends and family to come, and got up and spoke about colour and just sort of introduced, I guess, you know, my business. At that point, I had no website. You know, I might have had my business name, but I had nothing else. But I did something, like I took some action. And from there, you know, I started to get some momentum. And so the ball started rolling in the right direction, in the direction at least.
Well, the ball was just starting to roll. At least it was moving. It wasn't stagnant.
It was moving, yeah, because I've been stagnant for, you know, really since I'd come back for a year, because I also needed to get a job here. And then, you know, my plan was that I would then sort of, you know, scale back to doing part-time while I got my business set up and so forth. And so, yeah, that sort of first year, it was very, very challenging.
But it's so interesting, isn't it, that sometimes the thought of setting up the whole business and that, it was overwhelming because you didn't have enough boxes ticked, you hadn't done it before. But by taking just that one tiny small action, it meant that one step then led to another step that then led to another step. Like, this is such a common theme in life, though, isn't it? But we wait until until we've got the whole thing, till we've got the website and it's all this big grand plan and this launch. No, it's taking those one step. So where did the business name come from?
Well, yeah, that's a good question, Kim. So at the beginning, to be honest, I didn't want to have my name with the business. And to be honest, that was a decision based around my fear of, you know, and I think it's common, isn't it? I was like, who am I to call myself a stylist? And so I was hesitant to say, you know, styling by Lucy Owens or whatever it was. And to be honest, you know, when I then thought about, well, what has style enabled me to do through my career and how would I like it to assist the women that I help? And the word that came to mind was, well, it helped me rise up. It helped me rise up through the ranks really quickly into senior positions. It's something that I think has helped me rise in myself as a person. And when I put that word together with style, and that kind of just seemed to work. And it didn't have any connection to my name. And it wasn't until I actually worked with a gorgeous, gorgeous brand designer at the beginning of last year, and she goes, "Lucy, where's your name?" And this was, we go through those periods when you have your own business where, you have to up level if you want your business to go to the next level as well. And that was the first time when I said to her, yeah, my name needs to be there. And it then kind of became Style Rises by Lucy Owens.
Oh, Lucy, this is such a common thing. And I must say, when I started my business, which is Nine Rock, which is the part of my business that works predominantly in financial services, the same thing. And I had conflicting advice from different coaches around using my name or using a business name. But like you, I just felt, who am I to use my name? Like, who am I? And ironically, I'd wanted to move to my personal name for about the last 5 years. I did it this year, finally did it. And it still feels weird.
Yeah.
I'm straddling two at the moment. I've got two businesses, Kim Payne and Nine Rock. But it still feels weird saying my name. But it is a process, and it is courage to actually go, yeah, but it is me. Like, I'm not trying to be egotistical. It is me. And likewise with Style, right? But it is you. It's Lucy. Yeah. So, and certainly going into your own business does mean you have to rise up. You do have to do a lot of growth, personal, professional, spiritual, whatever it might be, but certainly a lot of it. So what do you think is your superpower now in this space?
In styling?
Yep.
Yeah. So I guess I've really carved out a niche working with corporate women. So some women such as yourself, Kim, who might have their own business, or, they might be consulting or have sort of more of a portfolio career. And because I've been in those scenarios in corporate where you have to walk into a room full of men, they're all in black suits or dark suits. You've got to do the presentation. You've got to be heard. You've got to present your ideas and all of those sorts of things. I've been through that. I've experienced that, and I think I have my superpower, I guess, is helping women understand how they can dress in a way that doesn't just make them feel like amazing, but it's actually helping influence the outcomes that they desire.
Oh, that's beautiful. And what do you find is the biggest pushback? Because I know one of the things that over the years, I've always loved color, but I was also in financial services and dressed in all the blacks and the grays and the darks. And it took a long time for me to really start to embrace color. And often people say to me, oh, wow, that's so courageous that you do that. But what do you think? So firstly, how does style and courage play out? And what do you think stops a lot of people from really embracing style or looking at style or thinking that, oh, that doesn't really matter?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So the first part of your question, which was how does style and courage play together? There's kind of two things that I see. One, it takes courage to recognize that style may not be your strong point or that you want to improve it. And the women who come to see me are open to change and growth. And it's a really personal thing, isn't it? Having someone look at your body, and we have all of these, I think, just emotions and relationships that come into play with our personal style. So it takes a lot of courage, I think, to place your trust in someone to help you with that. But once you do, the way that I see style is it fuels your courage, because you are not sitting there second guessing or doubting or having mental energy being taken up, worried about, oh my God, did I wear the right thing? I don't feel comfortable in this. Why didn't I choose something else? Which I think are really common things that play out in women's minds. My job is to help you dress in a way where you are not thinking anything at all. You can just be there and be your absolute best. And I do think that we are our best when we feel our best, when we look and feel our best.
I completely agree. So how does this work? So I was at a market on the weekend selling a whole lot of my pre-loved items. Yeah, which was super fun. And it's so funny because there wasn't much color in there, which is why they're all my ex pre-loves.
Yeah.
And a woman came up to me and she bought one of my black and white dresses. And she had seen my Instagram page and said, "Oh, I see you wear a lot of color, but I'm buying this black and white." And I said, "Why are you buying a black and white dress?" Because she said she loves color too. She said, "Because I work in a very, very corporate business, very strictly accounting. And if ever I've worn color, I've been told I need to tone it down, that I don't fit in when I'm standing out like that." How would you address that? But yet deep down inside, that's who she is. How do you address that kind of barrier to this is who I am and what I want to do, but these are the expectations of my workplace?
Yeah, so we have to find the right balance. And again, it comes down to sometimes depending on the role that we're in, if there is a little bit of friction there with our personality. So for me in my kind of miserable office job, there was a lot of friction because I had zero room to wear what I wanted. And so that wasn't right for me. And so sometimes I've actually had women whereby they have, once they've worked on their style, they've realized they're not in the right job because they can't express themselves in the way that they want to express themselves. So for this lady, there are going to be parts of her personality that she's going to have to tone down in terms of her dress in order to, I guess, fit within the expectations. And that is the reality. Like, there are certain times when you can go against the grain and it can work for you. If you think about some of the CEOs, they can do that when they've established a certain level of credibility and presence. For this lady, I would say she just needs to find a balance. Do you have to dress in financial services in all black, gray, navy? No. For me, I think those times have totally gone. But it's just about how do we find then a style where we do get to incorporate parts of her personality, but we're still being mindful of the expectations in that organization. There are ways that we can do it, and she doesn't need to strip away everything of her. If she loves color, then she can absolutely incorporate some color in. It's just the way that we do it.
And I think that's where your skill really comes into it, isn't it? That it
Yeah.
doesn't have to mean, wearing a bright pink suit, but there are other ways to still bring that flavor through that still
Correct.
remain, you can still do the job you do with the kind of respect you need and the kind of dress code under
Yes.
that's still appropriate. Yeah. And what, Lucy, do you find when you help someone find their style and their flavor and their personality, what difference do you think it makes in how they show up in life and in their work?
Oh gosh, I could go on about that for a long time, but I'm conscious the time that we've got left. And this is also from my own personal experience as well. I think there's a greater connection to self, and there is a sense that we are being our authentic selves, and people will sense that energy. And I think then we almost become like a magnet for things around us. Like we're just able to show up as being true to ourselves. And I think that has an incredible power in the way that we hold ourselves, the way that we carry ourselves, the way that we talk, because we feel a sense of the way that I'm presenting myself on the outside is an authentic reflection of who I am. And I think that's really, really powerful.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And it's not just about the clothes that I wear, is it? It is so much more, so much more.
Yeah, because the clothes that you wear they are communicating something about you and who you are. And so when we know and we feel comfortable and confident in what those clothes are saying, and that's an accurate reflection, like people are getting an accurate impression of who you are, that's when, yeah, style becomes incredibly powerful.
And it's so funny, Lucy, because it's almost like this is a foundational must have for life, not even just for work, but for life. But yet for so many, this is either I'm not interested in, or it becomes like a luxury or something that only if I get to this level I'll do that. I see that so often, but in
Yeah.
actual fact, this is foundational for who you are and how you show up. So I get why you love what you do.
Yeah. It's, it is incredibly, one, it's a privilege to get to work with the women that I work with. And I think to be able to see someone's confidence change. And, I've had women say to me, "You have changed my life." And you honestly just feel, wow, like that, yeah, that level of impact, is why I do what I do. Yeah, it is a wonderful thing to be able to do. And I think as women, why we work on our personal style or don't, I think a lot of the messaging, and a lot of our beliefs and so forth around style do come from when we're younger. I have had, women come to me and say, it was something that I was told is superficial. I shouldn't spend a lot on myself. I feel guilty. I've got other responsibilities. But the reality is, it's, how can something be superficial that is contributing so much to the way that you feel about yourself, which then impacts the way that you interact and, can be with everybody around you. So it's interesting. And I think, yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with women where often, as you said, early in the conversation, we can trace a lot of that back to the messages and influences that we had when we were younger.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I will put the details of your website in the show notes. But Lucy, as we're coming to a close, given all of this and where you've come and the business that you've built today, what's your next courageous step? Like, what's the next thing that you need to really reach in and find some courage to get out there and do?
I think, as a business owner, Kim, we're always sort of, going to, we're thinking about what's that next level for me. And that next level for me is growing my business to the next level. And I know that is going to take me showing up in an even bigger way. And it's pushing myself, yeah, getting out more, as I said, like just showing up more. And that's been a really big thing that I've had to get comfortable with, and where my style has definitely helped me with, over my business journey. And so that is on the horizon for me to have a bigger impact, in 2024.
Oh, I love it. And how does that make you feel?
Do you know there's butterflies sometimes, I think, when we think about that, and that's good because they're little butterflies of, you've got that little voice telling you no, the limitations that we place on ourselves, and then there's the other voice that's going, come on, we can do it. I choose to listen to that one.
Oh, completely. And I've always believed that I call them bubbles in my belly. I know they're butterflies, but
Yeah,
all of them, when they're there, they are part of what expands your comfort zone. And as your comfort zone
yes.
gets bigger, you can do more and continue to expand and expand. So, I say welcome, bring on those bubbles, because those bubbles mean that you're expanding. And for you too, like so many people would look at you and go, oh my God, but you've got all your styles sorted, you've got a really beautiful, successful business. But yet there's still things that you need to do, still moments where you need to reach in and find that courage to take that next step. And that is so wonderful. So obviously I'll put details of your website. How else could people get in contact with you or follow along and see who is Lucy Owens?
Yeah, of course. So I share a lot of content on LinkedIn. So please feel free to connect with me there and mention, that you've listened to this podcast. You can also come and follow along with me on Instagram. And I do also have a Facebook group, Leadership with Style and Confidence. I do a lot of trainings in there about once a fortnight and cover lots of different topics. So yeah, feel free to come along and request access to that as well.
Awesome. And I will put all those links in the show notes because honestly, and I grew up with a mother who was a stylist. So I've been from a very little girl being told, don't wear that. And that looks awful on you, Kim, or that's not your style. It's like, it's very dear to how much I went into financial services. So certainly not in the style game. I do know the impact it has. And I know, Lucy, the day I met you, your style walked in and said, this is someone that you need to get to know. So thank you so much for sharing. I am such a fan of what you do, how you change lives, from the outside in. And I think everybody needs to get a bit of Lucy Owens style into their lives and that extra bit of confidence and courage to move forward. So, Lucy, thank you so much for sharing your pearls of wisdom.
Thank you so much, Kim. I really enjoyed our chat.